Can your heart stand the shocking facts about grave robbers from outer space?
Hello everybody, Colin here, and welcome back to another awesome episode of Markers and Monsters. I think we got a good one today because today we're talking about and drawing something from one of the all-time classic bad movies, Plan 9 from Outer Space. Now if you guys are unfamiliar with Plan 9, it is a 1959 extremely low budget movie made by filmmaker Edward D. Wood Jr. And it has been given, I'll say, legendary status, in fact, because of its general badness. This is, in my opinion, just an absolute classic. It's so much fun to watch. It's got a lot of history behind it. It's very famous. And if you're looking for just a fun, bad B horror movie to watch, then you can't go wrong with Plan 9 from Outer Space. So we'll get a little more into the movie here in a minute. Right now, I just want to say, if you're watching the screen here, I am doodling out two of the characters from the movie. This is Inspector Clay, and I don't know if she had a name in the movie, but she's Bela Lugosi's wife, and they are at this point both zombified by the aliens. And so they're kind of in this graveyard with some flying saucers hovering above them. This is actually a lot of fun to draw. Tor Johnson, who played Inspector Clay, is, or was, like a 400-pound, I think he was Swedish or something, Swedish bodybuilder, or a former bodybuilder. But he's this huge guy. He looks like he's like a cinder block. He's just this big blocky shape. The woman is played by one of TV's first horror hosts, Vampira, or as her real name is, I think it's, I'm going to mispronounce this, but Malia Nurmi, and she was Finnish, I believe. And yeah, she has a very different look from Tor Johnson, where he's this giant, blocky dude. She is this just kind of small, very, very curvaceous, very voluptuous style of like vampire-looking girl. So she's all kind of curves, and he's just a big square. So those kind of shapes are a lot of fun to draw. And when you're drawing and doing things, it's always good to think of things in terms of, simple shapes. I find that's one of the first things that they teach you if you ever take any like art instruction, or even if you look at those old books from, I know I had them when I was a kid, like how to draw X, Y, or Z. Yeah, it always breaks down into shapes. So she's curves and he's squared angles. So yeah, a lot of fun. But yeah, anyway, as I'm making this, I'll tell you a little bit more about the movie, which, by the way, I will drop links in the description here. This movie is in the public domain, so if you watch my video and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go watch Plan 9, it is absolutely free to do so. You can just go to a number of different websites, and it's completely, like I said, completely free. Nobody can own the rights to it. So there's been dozens, if not hundreds of different releases of this on home video, on VHS and beta and DVD and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, it's widely available and really, really easy to find. So I would highly recommend going and checking it out if you can. Now, if you'll notice here on the video, my marker is running out, so I'm going to have to switch to a new one. And I'm going to take some time here and just refill up a couple of markers. So if you're watching the screen and not a whole bunch is happening in terms of the art coming together, just know that I'm refilling these guys up, and you might get to see that here in a bit. Now, I chose to do this drawing entirely in grayscale. Just because the movie itself is in black and white, and I just kind of wanted to represent that and not really do anything color. And it's a lot of fun to work that way. These are all done using tones of warm gray, which is different than a cool or neutral gray. It kind of has a nice, yeah, it's redundant, but a nice warm tone to it. Instead of a really like a cool blue almost. It's almost got kind of a warm greenish in the gray, but I thought it turned out, I thought the color scheme turned out really nice. So it's starting to look good as I'm getting the tones in here on these figures, and I'll be putting in the background. Little shrubs, like I said, there's those crosses in the middle are representational of the little cemetery in the movie. Now, one thing about this movie, as we've said before, it's got almost legendary status because it is, quote unquote, so bad. One of the worst movies ever made. It absolutely isn't. There's tons of worse movies out there. Just some really bad movies that exist. And while this movie is kind of inept, like it's goofy, the story makes no sense, the performances are bad, the special effects are crappy. I don't know. It's got a lot of charm to it, and it's very watchable, and it's definitely, you could say it's so bad it's good. This is a ton of fun, actually, this movie, as Halloween's coming up. If you're looking for something to just watch and you got some friends over, or even if the kids are out, this movie I don't think has really anything that is going to be offensive or upsetting to any kids. You could just throw this on and have a laugh and just laugh at the goofy dialogue and all the day for night shooting. Terrible, terrible special effects. So it's just a ton of fun to watch, and I definitely recommend this for if you're looking for something fun for Halloween. Even if you are throwing like a little Halloween party or whatever, you can just throw this on as like background noise and look over at it every couple seconds, and you might get a kick out of it. I definitely recommend it. Like I said too, public domain, so look for links in the description here and just go watch the movie online or whatever. Now, I have a couple different versions of this movie myself, including a colorized version, which is really awful. I think it was the 80s, Ted Turner, who owns like Turner Network Television, like TNT and TBS and all those stations, Ted Turner was putting out, or his company, I should say, was putting out just old classic movies, and they've been given this like coloration, this like they paint over the film, and they look horrible. A lot of them are just really, really bad. But Plan 9's is the version I have is especially bad. Everything looks just really, really terrible. That kind of adds to the charm to it too. Is it's an inept bad movie, and you've just made it worse. So how wonderful. Now, as this thing's coming along, and I'm going to be starting to ink soon. I'm just kind of adding in some extra shadows and just getting the tones right. The one thing with working in kind of the gray scale is you just have to be diligent that you make sure that your tones are the right shades. Otherwise, it's going to look kind of weird. Thus, I'm filling in the suit a little more, make it a little darker, and I just think that's turning out really nice. So let's start inking, shall we? So let's talk about the movie here real quick while I start working on the inking. Now, as I said before, this is produced and directed and written by Ed Wood, who's notorious in making a whole bunch of different bad movies. The story is this movie was funded when he went to, I think it was a Baptist church, and basically said he was going to make a movie, Grave Robbers from Outer Space, and he asked them for like the financing or whatever, and they thought he was going to make like a religious picture, and he just went ahead and made his own crazy movie. This movie opens up with Criswell, who's a weird old psychic, I guess, that was one of Ed Wood's friends, giving narration about how future events such as these will affect you in the future. Played a little clip there at the beginning of this video, so you can get a taste for what his kind of shtick was like. Anyway, Criswell talks about, can you stand the shocking facts and all this weird, nonsensical stuff that doesn't really relate to the movie at all. And then it opens up with our hero, and he's a pilot, encountering spaceships, flying saucers. He reports this to the government, and then you start to have, a series of graves being robbed, and the dead coming back to life, and the aliens are enacting Plan 9, which is resurrect Earth's dead to use as an army, which not a bad plan if you think about it. I think Doctor Who did it, but they might have did a little better. Anyway, through a whole series of inept scenes and bad special effects, day for night shooting, just goofy stuff. You get to the end where our heroes confront the aliens in their spaceship. There's a ton of great lines, ton of great dialogue, all kinds of fun stuff like that in there. So if you're interested in bad movies, this one is really one to check out. I can't stress that enough, guys. This is a real fun one, and you should definitely watch it for Halloween. I know I've been having a lot of fun drawing it and talking about the movie, and I don't know, just kind of chatting about this, very classic bad movie, and having fun. And that's another thing in terms of its its badness. I said it before, and I'll say it again here. It's really very watchable. Like you could throw this on and no problem. I think it's less than 80 minutes, so yeah, you could just toss this on and just have a lot of fun with it. There's tons of movies out there that are way worse, have worse performances, worse acting, and even worse than all that, they just aren't fun. This movie is a total blast. It's goofy as all get out, and you could see the strings on the saucers. Who doesn't love that kind of stuff? I know I do. I know I like that. So yeah, there's plenty of other movies out there that are a lot worse than this. So this is a fun one. All right. Looks like I'm getting these last tones here put in, and I'm going to start using my white paint pen to add in just some little stars in the background, just kind of dabbing them on. And when I do this, I try to make them as random as possible, since some a little bigger, some a little smaller. I've used this technique before in other videos, so it's just another thing I'm doing here. And then let's get the name sign down at the bottom. Boom. Let's take a look from the scan. And yeah, I think this turned out a lot of fun. It's a great way to start kicking off the Halloween season, of which I've got a lot of content planned for you guys. So, as always, up on the screen there is my Facebook and DeviantArt, Etsy, all that kind of fun stuff. Links are also in the description, so check them out. And hey, until next time, I'll see you guys on the next episode of Markers and Monsters.
This is the most fantastic story I've ever heard.
And every word of it's true, too.
That's the fantastic part of it.